Haribo, Haribo, Gaura Haribo. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtotara Sata Shri Srimad Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtotara Sata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudирayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantasto Hyapadrani, Vidhunoti Suhritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Ashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyatama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs and established as an irrevocable fact. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katha tajjo shanada shvapavarga vartmani shraddharatir bhaktir anukrameshyati. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16, texts 48 to 50. I'll just read through 48 and 49, and then we can do 50 together. So that's Canto 6, Chapter 16, King Chittiketu meets the Supreme Lord, text 48 to 50. Yam vai svashantam anuvishvashaja shvasanti yam chekitanam anuchitaya ukachanti bhumandalam sarshapayati yasya murdni tasmai namo bhagavate stu sahasra murdne. My dear Lord, this is Chittiketu Maharaj speaking. My dear Lord, it is after you endeavor that Lord Brahma, Indra, and the other directors of the cosmic manifestation become occupied with their activities. It is after you perceive the material energy, my Lord, that the senses begin to perceive. The Supreme Personality of Godhead holds all the universes on his heads, like seeds of mustard. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, that Supreme Personality, who has thousands of hoods. Text 49. Shri Shukavacha Sanstito Bhagavan Evam Anantastam Apashata Vidyadhara Patim Pritash Chitraketum Kurutvaha. Shukadeva Goswami continued, the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anantadev, being very much pleased with the prayers offered by Chitraketu, the king of the Vidyadharas, replied to him as follows. O best of the Kuru dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, please repeat text 50. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yannaradangiro Bhyante Vyahritam Me Nishasanam Samsiddho Sitaya Rajan Vidyaya Darshanach Chame Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yannaradangiro Bhyante Vyahritam Me Nishasanam Samsiddho Sitaya Rajan Vidyaya Darshanach Chame Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yannaradangiro Bhyante Vyahritam Me Nishasanam Samsiddho Sitaya Rajan Vidyaya Darshanach Chame. Anyone like to recite? Shri Bhagavan Vacha Yanardangiro Bhyante Vyahritam Me Nishasanam Samsiddho Sitaya Rajan Vidyaya Darshanach Chame. Anyone online?
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Yanaradan Girovyam Te
Yanardangiro Bhyante
Yahritam Me Nushasanam
Vyahritam Me Nishasanam
Samsirosi Taya Rajan
Samsiddho Sitaya Rajan
Vidyaya Darshanach Chame.
Vidyaya Darshanach Chame. Anyone else? Synonyms word for word. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Sankarshan replied.
Sarvashan replied,
Yet
yet
which? Narada Angiro Bhyam. By the great sages Narada and Angira.
by the good sages Narada and Indra,
Te
Te
unto you. Vyahritam spoken.
spoken,
Me
Te
of me.
of me,
Anushasanam,
Anushasana,
the worship.
the worship.
Samsiddha,
Samsita,
completely perfected.
completely perfect.
Asi,
Asi,
you are. Taya,
Taya,
by that.
Taya,
Rajan,
Raja,
O king.
okay,
Vidyaya, mantra.
Raja,
Darshanat,
Darshan,
from the direct sight.
from the direct sight,
Cha, as well as.
as
Me,
me,
of me.
of me.
Some words of note here are darshanat, from the direct sight, like darshana, like we see the Lord, and narada angiro bhyam, by the great sages Narada and Angira, and samsiddha, completely perfected. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anantadev, replied as follows: O King, as a result of your having accepted the instructions spoken about me by the great sages Narada and Angira, you have become completely aware of transcendental knowledge. Because you are now educated in the spiritual science, you have seen me face to face. Therefore, you are now completely perfect. Purport. The perfection of life is to be spiritually educated and to understand the existence of the Lord and how he creates, maintains, and annihilates this cosmic manifestation. When one is perfect in knowledge, he can develop his love of Godhead through the association of such perfect persons as Narada and Angira, and the members of their disciplic succession. Then one is able to see the unlimited, supreme personality of Godhead face to face. Although the Lord is unlimited, by his causeless mercy, he becomes visible to the devotee, who is then able to see him. In our present position of conditioned life, we cannot see or understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyai sevan mukhe jiva dao swayam eva suratyada. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2-2-3-4. If one takes to spiritual life under the direction of Narada Muni or his representative, and thus engages himself in the service of the Lord, he qualifies himself to see the Lord face to face. Brahma Samhita 538 states, Premanjana Chirita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunasvarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shama Sundara, situated within the heart of the devotee. One must follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Thus one becomes qualified and later sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead as evidenced by Maharaj Chitraketu. Please join me in chanting the Mangalarcharna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So after reciting all those complicated prayers with very specific diacritics, it's such a relief to just be able to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're so blessed that from Lord Chaitanya, who is non-different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we've been benedicted this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. One more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. So welcome everyone to this morning's Bhagavatam class. Thank you. We have Mother Jambavati here in person. Nikolai Prabhu addressing His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. We have Kaus Rup here doing Seva. And online we have Taraka Prabhu, Mother Chintamani, Lulu Kichori Prabhu, Yashadev Prabhu, Yashoda Prabhu, Jagannath Pandit Prabhu, Achyuta Dasi Prabhu, Devki Priti Prabhu, Ananya Bhakti Prabhu, and our second Yashoda Prabhu. And we're so grateful to have everyone here today to discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, what are we talking about today? Chitaketi Maharaj has seen the Lord face to face through being spiritually educated. That is the crux of this verse that we ended on. And we see this often throughout the Bhagavatam. Devotees are able to see the Lord and talk to him. And it's just amazing. I was thinking to myself, like, we get to speak and talk to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe. Like, it's kind of mind-boggling. This happens so much in the Bhagavatam. And here it's happening with Chitaketi Maharaj. So Chitaketi Maharaj went through what many of us go through. He had material attachment, so he had attachment to having a son. He had so many things. He had 10 million wives, and he had a great kingdom, and he worked so hard to get a son. He had 10 million wives, but none of them would bear him a son. And then eventually he did get a son through the grace of Angira Rishi, and we see that the son's name was Harsha Shoka, so one who brings jubilation and also lamentation. So we can see that in our own lives as well. When we get our material attachments, sometimes they bring both lamentation and also jubilation. But eventually, our spiritual master enlightens us, as happened with Chitaketi Maharaj, and he got enlightened by Sukadev, and he got enlightened by Angira and Narada rishis, and then he was able to see the Lord face to face after he got a mantra from Narada Muni that he chanted for a week. Of course, there's some more that we've discussed that happened in the past time in between him getting the son and him getting the mantra, like the son getting poisoned by the wives because they were jealous that the one wife was getting all the attention, and then the son coming back to life and preaching to the to his father, like, which father are you? I've had so many fathers. So that must have been bewildering for Chichiketi Maharaj, who was so attached, like, you are my son. I finally have my son I am the father of this son. And then it's like, who are you? So, oh, welcome, Madhupan Leela. So, so we're seeing this, that we can think about it in our own lives as well. Yesterday at the Bhakti Yoga Center, yesterday Prabhu was discussing how in this world, happiness and distress are one coin. A coin has two faces. And when happiness, you're always going to get distress with it, and distress, always happiness. They're together. You can't just be like, some people be like, we're like, oh yeah, we're just going to get the happiness part, and the distress, like other people are getting the distress too, but I'm just going to get the happiness part. But a coin always has two sides, two faces. So we have to accept that there'll be happiness and distress. But he was discussing Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.18, where Narada Muni discusses that just as distress comes automatically, happiness also comes automatically. And those who are intelligent, they understand that happiness comes automatically. And I'm like, okay, I'm not intelligent in that way, but he was making it easy to understand that through karma, our happiness is going to come, just like through karma, our distress is going to come. Um, And so then Yashadev was continuing, like, well, what are you supposed to do then? If our distress is going to come automatically, our happiness is going to come automatically, then he was explaining what Narada Muni is saying, then it's, okay, what are we supposed to do? So we chant Hare Krishna, engage in Krishna service and please him. So we do devotional service, we chant Hare Krishna, we hear and we do devotional service. So that is our path of bhakti yoga. And we please Krishna senses, we please him. And that's when we find what to do. So I was hearing a class by Devanamrita Swami on the first verse out of these three verses we read, the 6:16:48. And it was interesting, I'll just paraphrase. He was saying something about how, like, we can sometimes think, like, how can we please Krishna? And um, when in doubt about how to please Krishna, just chant Hare Krishna. And then, so it's like, when you don't know what to do, just chant Hare Krishna. And when you do know what to do, just chant Hare Krishna. So when in doubt, chant Hare Krishna. When you're sure, chant Hare Krishna. Just always chant Hare Krishna. So that's very nice. I was kind of applying that in my life the other day. It was like, just like when you're in the space of waiting, like you've just been through to a space between one activity and then going to the next activity, and you're just standing with some devotees, you're standing there for a second, and you're just like, hey, how could I please Krishna in this moment? So I just started chanting Hare Krishna, and it's so sweet. So you're serving the root. You're feeding the stomach whenever you please Krishna first, then you're also pleased. Like in that same class, Amrita Maharaj was talking about this analogy Prabhupada gives about, feeding the stomach. So he was saying if the hand holds a samosa in his palm and then tries to just smash it and get the enjoyment from that, that's, that's not how the hand's going to get nourishment. It's a pretty absurd way to think to try to do that. But that's what we all do in the material world as we're covered. But he was saying if the hand, takes the prasada, takes the food, I mean the bhoga, because Krishna is the bhokta, he's the enjoyer of the bhoga. So we take the bhoga and we offer it to the mouth, and then eventually as it goes through all the body systems, then the hand is nourished, and you're automatically also fed. So you please Krishna's senses first. And actually I was hearing something recently that was nice about like, oh, Krishna, like you just pray to him, like I can't control my senses, but you're the controller of the senses, so please control my senses. So just praying in this way, we can pray to be um, a puppet in the hands of Krishna and an instrument, and just a vessel or a vehicle who delivers his message and does service to him. Like just like the male person, when they deliver the message of whoever's mail it is, they don't open the envelope and tamper it with the message by adding or subtracting anything. As our individual messengers of Krishna, we just deliver the message. We don't tamper with the mail. We try to be a good mail's person and just give the essence and ask to be instruments in him to help control our senses, just serve him nicely in everything that we do. And when we're singing, we can try to sing to please Krishna. So when I was chanting in the past kirtans we've had, like we had the drum circle at Mother Yashoda Mai's house, or I was chanting there, and we had kirtan night on Wednesday night at Sarvabhaupuri and Mother Devya's, and Thursday night kirtan at the Bhakti Yoga Center. I was thinking every now and then I would get the reminder, like, okay, let me try to chant this mantra that I'm chanting right now to please Krishna. Um, not just like mechanically chant it, but like, okay, I kind of consciously was like, okay, Krishna, I'm chanting this one for you. And I noticed like just some reciprocation in my heart, like he was pleased that, okay, you're doing this for me and I'm accepting it. Um, so we can do that in our japa as well. Just remember like I'm trying to do my japa to please you, Krishna, or I'm trying to do this service to please you, Krishna. That's why I'm doing it. And that really changes the consciousness of the service to Krishna consciousness. We were talking also at the CC class this week that you can either be in Maya consciousness or Krishna consciousness, and you can't be in both. It was interesting. I was trying to wrap my head around that it's either or, like Sarvama Prabhu was saying in his class, that you can either be dry or wet. You can't be both. And I was like, well, what about like if one part of your body is dry and the other part of your body is wet? And I don't know. What do you say? Damp? Yeah, damp. That was a good one, Mother Jumper said. Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't wrapped my head around that one, but um, I've started to understand from these classes we've been having recently that it's like, yeah, either you're thinking I'm gonna do this for myself, or you're thinking I'm gonna do this for Krishna. Like you're thinking in Maya, like I'm gonna get this for my enjoyment, or I'm gonna do this for Krishna's enjoyment. Like the mind is always thinking of something, and it's either thinking of Krishna or it's not thinking of Krishna. Um, like even if you can't actually multitask, they say like even in science, like it's just your task switching, so you're quickly switching from task to task. So you can't really think of Maya and Krishna at the exact same time. Each second you're changing from which when you think you can't like jointly think of um unless you're seeing Krishna everywhere and you're understanding, okay, even when you're thinking of Maya, Devi herself, you're thinking that she's a servant of Krishna. And then you're thinking about Krishna. Um Yeah. So basically, our position is as a servant. That is our constitutional position, to serve the order of the superior, as the purport to six talks about. We are here to serve. We're always serving something. Oftentimes, we're serving our own senses and our own ideas, but we have to serve Krishna senses. And often, when we're trying to serve, just serving ourselves without serving Krishna, we're having this scarcity consciousness that like, okay, there's not enough and I need to get mine. And rather than a consciousness of abundance, understanding that Krishna is providing everything to everyone. And there was a devotee here when the body, mind, and spirit retreat just happened last weekend in Gita Nagari, who was giving class, Sundar Ananda Prabhu. So he was giving class and he was also sharing comments in some of the classes in that weekend. They're streamed on YouTube. And he said something interesting about jealousy and how what I took away from it was like what I understood he was saying is that you don't have to be jealous, because it's not like, okay, Krishna gave this to this person and like, there's not enough big and like he can't give that same energy to me. He can't give this to me also. So there's enough to go around. Krishna can empower all of us. So no need to be jealous in that way. Um, and also, just so this whole verse is talking about seeing God, and we were hearing from Yashadev last Tuesday in class that, well, if somebody asks you, have you seen God? We can actually say yes, because we've seen him in the Archavigraha form. You can say, yes, I've seen him. I cook for him. I wake him up in the morning. I put him to rest. And it's pretty amazing that, yeah, we've seen the Lord. And um, another thing this verse is just explaining to us is that through perfect knowledge, then we can see the Lord. And the eyes that are anointed with the pulp of devotion, of love, we see him, we see the Lord. Um, Kalas Rupabu was talking in a class this week that like the atheists will say that they haven't seen the Lord. So, but if they don't know what the Lord looks like or anything about the Lord, then how would they even know if they saw the Lord or not if he was right in front of them? So knowledge is key. We really need to know about the Lord to know if we're to know him. Um, so this verse is saying that by accepting instructions that Chittakej Maharaj became completely aware of transcendental knowledge. So following the spiritual master's instructions, we become completely aware of the spiritual knowledge. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 is called transcendental knowledge. Um, and 434 talks about how Just try to understand the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So we get our knowledge from these self-realized souls, and they impart the knowledge onto us. And it's this verse is also saying in the purport that through the civic succession of Angira and Narada Muni, we get knowledge. So we're blessed that we have through Prabhupada, through ISKCON, we have this civic succession who are giving us this knowledge so we can understand Krishna. And the first sentence of this purport is actually that what the perfection of life is, and it's given in like a three-pronged way. The perfection of life is to be spiritually educated and to understand the existence of the Lord, to be spiritually educated, to understand the existence of the Lord, and how he creates, maintains, and annihilates this cosmic manifestation. And I was just like, this is so interesting that like the perfection of life is just like understand something like that, like how he creates, annihilates, and maintains the cosmic manifestation. That was just interesting to me. Um, and but we hear that in more in chapter 4 in Transcendental Knowledge that like 4:9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mameti sorjana. One who no one who knows, here's the knowledge again, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not upon leaving this body take his birth again in this mature world, but attains my eternal abode, or Arjuna. So Krishna is saying you get to him through knowing his appearance and his activities. And it always seems so like simple or odd to me. Like just you just have to know like about the transcendental nature of his appearance and activities, and then like you go back to him. But he's inconceivable, and to understand the actual transcendental nature of his appearance and activities, I can see that I haven't understood that, or even to understand transcendental knowledge, because we're hearing in these verses also in 257 of Bhagavad Gita, we're seeing what it means to have perfect knowledge. And it's one of the translations to that verse, there's two different translations. One of them is, he who is without attachment, who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor lament when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Now, I'm not without attachment. I rejoice when I obtain good. I lament when I obtain evil. And I'm definitely not firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So it's interesting to see like, okay, this key is being situated in knowledge and knowing whenever I must not be there. Um, and so we can actually look throughout the verses in chapter 4 and kind of like get pictures about transcendental knowledge. Um, and ultimately, we need the sadhu sangha of each other to hear about Krishna and to get that knowledge from each other, from the Bhagavatam, from Srila Prabhupada, and the spiritual masters and spiritual teachers. So sadhu sangha is very, very important. Another thing that is in this verse is talking about we can't understand is four things: the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through our materially contaminated senses. So it's through becoming spiritually saturated, which is such a nice visual, becoming spiritually saturated, then by the transcendental service to the Lord, we can understand his transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes. So maybe I'll just end with a prayer, because we're almost out of time, and we could talk a little bit more if that clock, it doesn't work right now, but it's 7:44. And if there's no discussion, I can just say a little more. But one thing maybe I'll end with is a prayer about Sadhu Sangha by Dhruva Maharaj, one of my favorites, prayers 4:9:11. Bhakti Muhu Prabhatam Tvayime Prasango Suryadanantamahatam Amalashayanam Yenanda Sobhanamuru Vyasanam Bhavabhim Neshe Bhavadguna Katam Ritapanamataha. Dhruva Maharaj continued, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly as the waves of a river constantly flow. They're completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. And then how can he do that? He says, by the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the ocean, the Neshan ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing fire-like dangers. Lots of analogies going on here, lots of visuals. It shall be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes. which are eternally existent. So, all glories to all the devotees who are here, who are always coming regularly to the Bhagavatam, as we heard in the praise of the Bhagavatam in the beginning of class today, that the regular attendance of the Bhagavatam, and we have so many regular attendees here, and we get our sadhu sangha together. So I'll stop there. Any corrections? Vaisheshika Prabhu says, you can say, I live to be corrected. And no hard questions, but any questions? I like to say that. I heard Guru Maharaj Prabhu say that. Um, any comments, reflections, realizations, takeaways? What is fueling you in your spiritual life? What have you realized about spiritual education and how important it is for us to be able to see the Lord face to face? Madhupan Leela Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Janavatala Devi. Thank you for your nice class. I tuned in right as you started speaking about how we can see the Lord face to face, like how people say, "Oh, you've never seen Krishna, or you can't see God," and we say, "Yes, we see God." I wake him up, I serve him on the altar, I cook breakfast, I cook lunch for him. And then I was thinking this nice point that Devarina Swami often says in his classes, which is that we see actually through hearing. And I was thinking of this in relationship to when I'm on the altar and I'm serving through my spiritual master, Lord Damodar and Srimati Radharani and the gopis. Oftentimes I can't even see that they're there. Like I'm like, okay, yes, I'm, putting on their dresses and putting on their jewelry, but I don't have the realization that I'm doing this to Krishna. So I think this is the importance of reading. So I was just appreciating that point because it was really setting in for me on a deeper level how important it is to read. Otherwise, yes, we can do these activities, but we won't even know who we're doing them for. Thank you. Very nice class.
Thank you for sharing that. You're reminding us that it's important to get spiritual knowledge to be able to have the consciousness while we're doing services, the Krishna consciousness.
Haribol Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much for such a beautiful class. I really appreciated the point that you were making about who are we doing things for? Yeah. I got to bed at 2 o'clock this morning because I'm working on a project that I think that I'm doing it for Krishna, but you're just listening to you. I was realizing, yeah, I'm mostly really doing this for me, but I'm just saying I'm doing it for Krishna. So when we have that realization, how can we put Krishna back in the center? How can we really try to understand that we actually can't do anything without Krishna, and that our real what our real goal is to just to be the servant of Krishna, to really understand that not a blade of grass moves without him. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Oh, there's a lot of aspects to that. What should I? That's really nice. One thing I heard was a few different things, like how we can see that we're actually servants of him, how he's actually the one controlling, and the one that's hardest I think for me to speak on is when we realize that we're actually doing it more for ourselves rather than him. Like, what do we do at that point to like shift him back to the center? Because I think that's something I try to process, especially when you're doing devotional service that's like infused with like your sense gratification. Like, I'm doing these like nice things for like, and it's engaging my senses and it's really attractive for me. So that one is, I'll start speaking on the other ones first, but something that I was talking with a friend about was that understanding, which we talked about in like two weeks ago when the first class I gave. I mean, not 2 weeks ago, but about how all our energy is coming from Krishna, just like light bulbs. They're there and they get lit up by the power source coming on. Um, so if we're just running on our own power, and not understanding that he's fueling that power or understanding that he's the controller, we're not going to be able to, we might be running on fumes or not be able to really access the capability and sources that he can give. So if we're running on his power, there's unlimited source for us. And As that came to mind, I'm not really sure if that perfectly relates, though. I'm going to try to see if I can relate it there, because um, when we're doing our services, um, ultimately, he is the enjoyer, supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and supreme controller, as the peace formula of Bhagavad Gita 5:29 tells us. Um, and I'm just grasping at straws here, trying to see, because that was it's really making me think here. It's a good question. Well, we can remember that as we're trying to serve our own senses, we can remember that actually we're always a servant, like you're saying. So if we start to become conscious of like where we're serving our senses, or like what we're doing, because we're always serving. But if we become conscious that, oh my gosh, here I'm serving my senses, then you remember that you're actually a servant, and then you remember, oh well, who should I serve? And I should serve Krishna. So that's how you can kind of become more conscious that you're a servant. Just like remember that you're always sort of like under the control of something, like you're being pulled by this or that. Like the senses um, are sure. The senses are like the wild horses, like we were talking about, and they're pulling us in each direction. So just notice how you're being pulled in different ways by Maya and illusory energy. Um, and that's how you can kind of remember, like, I'm just a servant to all these things that are going on, but I want to serve a better person. And then remembering that he's the controller and not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. And then also we were talking about how we're really doing services for ourselves. Um, so that happens sometimes. It's more for myself than it is for Krishna. And actually, it's funny. There was this Vaisheshika Prabhu was talking about someone doing kirtan, and they're going, "Look at me, look at me, look at me, everybody, look at me." And it's just like, I was like, "Oh wow, I need to be conscious of that." Like, um, it's like we're so enroped in our service that we're doing. It's like we're coming from our perspective and our point of view and our place. So it's like since we're involved in it, it's hard not to it be about us also. But it's like remembering like what yeah, like Mother Jambavati saying, I'm just an instrument. Like okay, coming back to like why am I doing this? And like you can kind of deconstruct why you're doing it, and then be like, let me consciously try to shift that to be like, okay, Krishna, yeah, I want to do this for so many other reasons, but I actually say to him, like, I want to do this for you, or I want to do this for you. And then like just like saying that, like he is appreciative of that. Because he knows like we are anandamaya vyasat, we're always searching for pleasure, we're trying to do things for ourselves, but it's just that there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we want to do it in the right way. The way you get pleasure is you go to Krishna, and then he makes us all pleased. I could keep rambling, but is that
No,
addressing?
thank you. Yeah, and just what you also said about serving Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. You know, like in those moments where you get that clarity that, oh wow, I thought I was doing this for Krishna, but I'm actually really doing it for me, but I really want to do it for Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, you know. So thank you. That I'm going to be definitely using that a lot today. So thank you. Jai. Great class, Prabhu. Haribol.
Thank you for a great question and comment, really getting us all to think about our services that we're doing. I'm curious whether anyone else has any realizations about that, that kind of like engaging in sense gratification while you're doing devotional service, kind of that mixed devotion thing. I mean, we're all gonna be ultimately like that, probably till we're purified. Um,
Hare
it's something,
Krishna.
yeah, okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the class. I think you hinted at something before about the importance of intention, like, you know, um, that can impact uh, the mood that we perform devotional service also. Because when we're doing service, we're absorbed in the service. So we may not, we're not always fully conscious of what our consciousness is. But prior to doing the service, if the intention is clear that I'm trying to do this for the pleasure of Krishna, then that can help as we perform the service to keep the consciousness in the proper consciousness. You had mentioned something about being wet and dry at the same time, and that can you express that again? I wanted to comment about that. What were you saying about that?
Yeah, so you can't be in my consciousness and Krishna consciousness at the same time, like you can't be wet and dry at the same time.
Yes. And at the same time, I was thinking that, for a mango to ripen, it takes time. And then also, when we're actually in the shower, there's some spots that will remain dry even though you're in the shower, unless you actually make an effort to get to those areas, to clean those areas. It takes some effort. You got to move your arm up to get under your arm, and then some other spots I won't mention. But it takes some effort and there's effort and mercy, and the more we focus on, the more there's focus and the more there's effort, then we can attract more mercy from Krishna. But at the same time, some areas can be completely, the heart can be completely cleansed by the perfection of any of the 9 processes of devotional service. Right? And so we can still become saturated with the love of Krishna, even by one aspect of one process of devotional service. Yeah.
Thank you so much for helping us think more about that. If no one else has anything, I actually might want to. Huh? Yeah, Mother Jamabadi has a comment. Please come to the mic. The devotees online can hear.
Hare Krishna. So your mother may be familiar with this. It's kind of funny in a way, but context and culture are very important, because we were talking about, the fact that we can actually see God or see Krishna. And I don't know all of the details, but apparently there was a group of sociologists that gave a test to the residents of this particular town. I don't know if it was in the Bible Belt. I don't think it was in the Bible Belt. But one of the questions was, have you talked to God? And this particular town was very religious, so of course, a lot of them answered yes. But consequently, because they didn't understand the culture or the context of this particular town, they labeled them all as being schizophrenic. Oh, Krishna. So culture and context are very important when you talk about seeing God.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Mother Jamabadi. We have a hand up, or 1 or 2 hands up. Yeah, Devti Prati. Thank you, everyone, for enlivening this conversation.
Thank you for your class, Jana, and I really liked the point about even if you're not originally maybe doing exactly for Krishna, but just that desire to have the desire. I've heard Andrew Prabhu talk about that with chanting too. So I love that reminder, just even if we don't have the desire, we can hanker and pray to want to have that desire. And I think that's my take home that I'm thinking of, and we can connect with Krishna through his holy names with trying to do that. So thank you so much for your class. So many wonderful points. And I love how you brought in sharing a lot of things other devotees said that inspired your heart as well as your own thoughts and reflections. Hi, Krishna.
Jai.
What was what you just said in one sentence? Because I was kind of distracted by the deities. Oh, I just said that my thank you so much for your class, and that my take home was that point you made about even if you're, I think you said that we can want to have that desire, even if we're not doing it for Krishna, we can want to have it. And I was
Yes.
thinking like how wonderful that is, and that we can also how we can connect with that with even our chanting, and you were talking about the holy name. So I just love that. Like even if we don't have it, we don't have to feel bereft. We can just pray to also be able to have that desire to want to do with anything in devotional service. So it's a nice reminder. That's my take home for today. Thank you. Yeah, it's nice. That keeps us encouraged. I'm going to take this opportunity, Tarika Prabhu, to recite a poem that I wrote for you, just like you wrote me a poem. So in front of the Vaishnavas, I want to glorify another Vaishnava. So in praise of Tarika Prabhu. In Bhagavatam class, in the Zoom plane, the presence of a foundation doth remain. His voice, a shower of Krishna Katha, liberating us from loads of unfortunate papa. With heart that beats for Krishna's plan, upholding the Siddhanta with caring hand, soldier for his guru, Srila Prabhupada, he wants to love and serve our God. A heart of gold with stories untold, he shares the grace for all to taste, true and bold. Despite the challenges he may face, he holds on to Krishna's loving embrace. O Tarkabaru, sadhu of might, and Krishna consciousness you do delight. A stalwart devotee example to praise, helping Radha Damodar's community remember them now and always. Jai, Tarkabaru ki jai.
Oh my God. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time and thought to be able to do that. I really appreciate what you've done. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Oh my goodness. Hare Krishna.
Yesterday, Prabhu said Bhagavatam class is transformed into poetry slam.
Hare Krishna, Jana, thank you so much for your class and for sharing that poem. And Tarika Prabhu, I would like to say, what a beautiful, loving standard that you set. You're such a caring father for all of us. And the love that you give just inspires devotees to give and give. So your loving offering of that poem to Janavatsala now inspired her. And like yesterday Prabhu said, now we have like a poetry slam Bhagavatam class, but based on loving relationships. So thank you, Tarika Prabhu, despite whatever challenges your body continuously gives you. You're so dedicated to be an example and a servant and a representative of Srila Prabhupada. So thank you so much, Jai Hare Krishna. Thank you for your efforts, Jana, and writing that from the heart. So Hare Krishna.
Jai, great points. Tarkabaru ki jai.
Hey, I want to say that we were speaking about seeing Krishna, that we can say that we have seen Krishna. And we can see the deity, of course. Those whose eyes are tinged with the salve of love can see Krishna everywhere and everything. They can see Krishna within their hearts. There was an instance of Srila Prabhupada speaking to a reporter who was interviewing him. I think he had arrived at an airport. I can't recall where it was. So the reporter was asking Srila Prabhupada, have you seen Krishna? And that this was not uncommon that reporters would ask questions like this. Srila Prabhupada said, well, what do you think? What do you think? Look at us. Look at what we're doing. You think we're doing all this without having seen Krishna? That it would be pretty foolish for us to be endeavoring to the extent that we are, that we're doing all the things that we do without having some practical experience of Krishna. And maybe we're not seeing Krishna's threefolding bending form in our hearts, but we each have some level of realization of Krishna, some practical working experience of Krishna in our lives. Maybe it's just that we experience um, a wonderful transcendental taste by chanting Krishna's names, that we feel that we are sheltered by hearing and chanting the holy names. That taste is so wonderful that we are able to, just by dint of the taste that we experience by chanting, we are able to give up all kinds of nonsensical activities that are impossible to give up for most people. The average person is, their lives are dedicated to breaking the regulative principles in one way or another. That's what their life is all about. It's what they live for. Most people's lives revolve around sex life in one aspect or another, and a devotee can uh, can drop that without even any feeling of loss, because they have a superior taste, which dwarfs everything else. So it's maybe not directly seeing Krishna's form, but experiencing Krishna nonetheless in so many different ways. There is, seeing is not everything, and Srila Prabhupada has explained so many times that we see with our ears, that hearing is actually the most important and powerful means of acquiring knowledge, of receiving information through the ears. We see through our ears. It's much more powerful. The eyes can be deceived. The eyes are subject to all kinds of frailties. Who was giving the example recently that sometimes you see the illusion of water in the distance, in a hot desert, or the sun is baking the pavement, and it appears as though there's water there, but it's an illusion. The eyes have their frailties. Um, you can be deceived by hearing some misinformation as well, I suppose, but hearing is a very powerful means of acquiring knowledge, and if you're hearing from the right source, then you have pure knowledge, um, without any element of illusion or deception. So anyway, Krishna can be experienced in many ways other than just simply seeing, and and he reveals himself proportionately to our surrender. So everyone has some experience of Krishna to one extent or another. And Srila Prabhupada also has stated that everyone actually is seeing Krishna, but they don't recognize that they're seeing Krishna, because there is nothing but Krishna. Um, there's Krishna's various energies and potencies, and there's nothing separate from Krishna. Everyone is seeing Krishna, or one aspect or another of Krishna, but they don't understand, they don't appreciate that what they're seeing is Krishna. So by hearing from authoritative sources, we gain the vision to be able to see Krishna in all these different manifestations. And eventually, with a pure heart and eyes tinged with the salve of love, we can directly perceive Krishna in his original form. In the meantime, trying to render a devotional service, which is the means by which we purify ourselves. Sometimes we we're thinking we're rendering devotional service or trying to render a devotional service, but sometimes there's some selfish motivation. We're trying to come to the point of rendering service purely. And so how do we do that? How do we accomplish that? How do we get to the point of rendering devotional service purely without any tinge of selfish motivation? And the answer is that the only means is devotional service itself. It's just by continually rendering devotional service gradually or also sometimes suddenly. There really is not a fixed time frame for advancement in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes devotees will say that, well, it's a process. It takes a while. For most devotees, it takes some time. But we should also remember, at least we become complacent, because we're thinking that, well, it takes a while, so I shouldn't expect that this is going to happen quickly. But it's important to also remember that it can happen quickly. And the only reason that it takes time is that it's because of us. It's because, we don't necessarily apply ourselves as seriously as we could. We drag out a process sometimes that doesn't necessarily have to take that long. Srila Prabhupada explained so many times that you can become actually fully Krishna conscious in a moment if you have the resolute determination to do that. It's not necessarily difficult, but we cling to all kinds of material attachments, and evidently we don't really want to immediately rise to the highest stage of Krishna consciousness. We want to take our time, and so we don't necessarily manifest the kind of intense enthusiasm and determination that would make it possible for us to advance very rapidly. We take our time about it, and still entertain some of our material attachments, a little sense gratification here and there. But if we're determined, if we really want to, there's no impediment, there's no bar, there's no rule that says it has to take so much time. It only takes time because we choose to take our time. So it can be very fast, but important to understand that there isn't a I was explaining to one devotee the other day that Matsarya, envy, is a stumbling block for devotees. It's something which has been with us since time immemorial. It brought us to the material world. We had some envy of Krishna. Maybe it started out innocently. We just wondered, what is it like to be Krishna? I wonder what it's like to be Krishna. Look at Krishna. He is so wonderful. Everyone loves Krishna. What must it be like to be Krishna? And that's how it begins. So, because in the spiritual world, whatever you think immediately manifests as a reality, or at least a temporary reality within the scope of material nature, because you can't actually be Krishna, but you get a chance to try to pretend to be Krishna. So Matsarya has been with us for a very long time, and it's an impediment that we need to eradicate. But how do you do that? From the writings of the Goswamis, we understand that Matsarya actually it's only at the stage of bhava that it pretty much disappears, and then at the stage of prema, it's completely gone. But you have to get to the stage of bhava before Matsarya disappears. But how do you accomplish that? So sometimes devotees have the conception that I'm going to work on this or that aspect of my consciousness. I have this envy, so I'm going to work on uprooting that. But there is no means, there's no mechanism for doing that. Whatever you may try to do is artificial, and it actually will not work. There's only one means that actually will eradicate that envy, and it's devotional service in one aspect or another of devotional service, one of the 9 processes. Particularly effective is hearing and chanting. So just chanting our rounds with great attention is the best means to try to eradicate that. But there actually is no other means. There isn't any other way. There's not, like, by some sort of mental adjustment or something, you can't purify your heart in that way. It's only by devotional service. So just to continue doing the things that we do, that's the process. There isn't some special trick or a shortcut or something. It's everything that we do. Rising early and bathing and chanting Hare Krishna, attending Mangala Artik, and engaging in kirtan, honoring Krishna Prasad, associating with devotees, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam class, and on, all different kinds of devotional service. All those things are the means by which we purify our heart of all the different types of impurities. So just applying ourselves diligently to all these activities of devotional service, that's the means by which we can come to the point of being able to see Krishna directly, face to face. In the case of Chitraketu, just following the instructions of his spiritual master and reciting a particular mantra with attention, he was able to see the Lord face to face within 1 week. We potentially can do that also. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, you can see Krishna face to face within a week, or actually even less than that. And actually, there are stories of devotees who have had that experience of because for new devotees, it sometimes happens that because they are new, they're innocent. Sometimes they can chant without offense, because they have no they're just completely innocent. They chant innocently. They're not trying to they're not trying to take advantage. They're not trying to eradicate sinful reactions, for example. They're not disobeying the instructions of their spiritual master. They're not blaspheming the Vedic literature or devotees. They started out innocent. Later on, it's different. Then, gradually they begin to commit offenses. They know more, and so the responsibility is greater, and they become responsible for all kinds of offenses. So devotees sometimes experience that in the very beginning of their exposure to Krishna consciousness, they have extraordinary experiences of Krishna consciousness, and then gradually that diminishes due to their offenses. But it happens sometimes that devotees see Krishna face to face in the earliest days of their exposure to Krishna consciousness, and then wonder why that consciousness does not persist. Um, it's because of offenses. So offenses have to be eradicated, and they gradually will cease by the continual practice of devotional service. And we also have to make a conscious effort to avoid them. We have to know what they are and to try to avoid them. But the real purification of our heart is affected by devotional service. Anyway, that's some of my thoughts. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. Thank you so very much for your kind poem. I Gosh, I feel I'm deeply honored. I honestly I feel like um, your time could have been better spent, but it's a very kind sentiment. I appreciate it, and it was reciprocation. So this is how devotees associate with one another by um, exchanging gifts, among other things, and and by associating in that way, they imbibe one another's good qualities. So maybe I will become Subedasa, because my Medha is badly damaged. You have excellent memory. My memory has been through a bunch of things, and it is abysmal. I would love to be Samedasa, but I am Alpa Medasa. Um, Srila Prabhupada would say, head packed up with cow dung. So I'm like that, but you are Subedasa, so maybe I can imbibe those qualities. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Wow, what nectar. Um, you said Srila Prabhupada would say head packed with cow dung. Head packed up with cow dung. We talk about how to be able to see a quality in someone else, you have that quality. Something like that, correct me if I'm wrong. So you seeing that good memory is also indicative of your good memory. I've always, admired your incredible memory, you and your son, when you give classes, Krishnangri Prabhu, Kripamari Krishnangri. I mean, it's like the details from past experiences are so sharp. It's very impressive, and it's a treasure trove for us to remember what's happened in the past. And something I've heard is that surrender is a moment by moment process. And you were making me think of that because what you were saying about surrender and how you were talking about seeing versus hearing. Like, yeah, I could see somebody and I don't know anything about them, but just hearing, that's when I learned so much and actually get to know the person. So yeah, seeing isn't all as it's cracked up to be. Hearing is very powerful. And also we have to apply the process properly. So if we're doing the experiment and we have the Krishna consciousness, but we're not applying the process properly, we might say that it doesn't work. But we have to do the scientific experiment correctly to get the correct result. And I appreciated your point again that gradually, you're reminding me that gradually can mean gradually slow or gradually fast. Gradually can mean you're just walking up the steps one by one, or it could mean you try to walk up like 7 steps at a time, which you do a split and hurt yourself. You can't really do that. Um, so you could also just stand on a step and wait around for a bit. I've also heard that you can only go, you're either advancing or you're not advancing. You're going down or going up. Um, I heard you can't actually plateau. And I'm also learning from you that mental adjustments can't purify our heart. it's devotional service and all these regulations and our morning program of rising early, cleansing ourselves, all that will clear our heart. And finally, you were helping us understand that the more you know, it's greater responsibility. So at the beginning, you get these experiences of maybe seeing Krishna when we're chanting innocently, but then we start to make offenses. Yeah. Thank you. I took some notes on what you're saying. It's not just some magical memory. Does anyone else have anything to share?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It was a wonderful class. I actually wanted to come in person, but I was actually having a rare morning of being absorbed in my japa, and by the time I realized what time it was like 5 minutes to 7. So I had to tune in online, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to hear class nevertheless. So I was reflecting on a question from actually Tarka Prabhu sharing that we're in this, and I kind of made an analogy in my head, and somebody kind of mentioned we're in the shower, cleansing ourselves daily with the nectar of the holy name, and engaged in the ninefold processes of devotional service. And so many ways we as devotees have so many methods and techniques for cleansing and purifying the heart, mind, body. But we know that, and that's what makes, the association of devotees so unique and so special. But unfortunately, other people that we're coming in contact with who are not, maybe on a daily basis or from time to time, who are not engaged in this process, who are not being cleansed and not being purified and constantly committing offenses against us and other people, my question is, how do we tolerate and really help them? Because it can become very overwhelming dealing with that type of energy when people are not engaged in a process that's helping them to become purified, and they become extremely offensive. And we, as we often just tolerate, and so the thought came to mind, okay, yeah, lead by example, but how can we really help them? I know giving prashad, we have these things we can do, but unless they're engaged in this process as well, I guess, try to make them devotees, whatever, but not everybody's going to come to Krishna consciousness. It's for most people, like Prabhu would say, most people, they don't want to give up. It's impossible for them to think about giving up their sense gratification. So how do we help them, or maybe even help ourselves to be able to endure such offenses? Asking for the young person vision on that, insight on that.
Wow, well, you already had a lot of insight about it, so I'm happy you already kind of gave some of the answers. So just kind of tick those off the box of the list of things to try to do. One of them came to mind, which I'm sure you already know or think about this, is praying for them. Another thing that came to mind was what we're probably not going to do, which is Bhakti Tirtha Swami making the prayer of Vasudeva Datta that let their offenses come up on us, on ourselves. He did that, which was like so powerful, and then he helped people in that way. And then Tarka Prabhu was saying how like I was talking to him and how Haribo, Maha, everyone honor through your eyes. I know we're not Krishna, we can't do that, but thank you, Nikolai Prabhu. So that even if we tolerate, Tarka Prabhu was just explaining to me that Krishna
I had to ask him a question, and he's like, well, Krishna will not tolerate though. So he will not tolerate offenses to the devotees. So I guess for ourselves, we can try to tolerate to just get through, but they're still going to get the reactions from committing offenses to us because Krishna won't tolerate offenses to his devotees.
That's a nice reminder.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Were you going to say
No,
something else?
no, you didn't cut me off. I was just seeing if there was anything else to say. I mean, ultimately, I guess they need to get a higher taste. And they can also get a Gyata Sikriti just by kind of, well, so you're saying if they're kind of making offenses to us, but if they're being nice to us, that's also going to help them, even if they don't want to take to this process. That's going to help them through a Gyata Sikriti eventually take to this process, even if this life they're like, oh, okay, I don't want to join this religion. I don't want to join this Sanatan Dharma. It's not even religion, it's Sanatan Dharma. If they're saying that, that Gyata Sikriti will affect them. But if they're making offenses at you and stuff, like, how to help them is what you're really asking. It's one of the things we're asking, and also how to help ourselves endure the offenses, how to be able to endure the offenses. Yeah, that's a tough one. Like, can you talk a little bit more about what that question is?
Well, I was wondering too, maybe if Tarka Prabhu had anything he could add to that.
Yeah.
Would you need me to clarify the question is what you're asking?
Tell a little bit more about what you mean about how we can endure those offenses. Like, what were you thinking about
Yeah,
that?
because they're not gonna, if they're not engaged in a process that's helping them to become purified, they just keep committing offenses, there has to be some level of tolerance or endurance if we have to remain in the environment. Say if you're like, for me, I'm thinking of a work environment. You go, seeing the person daily, or, I hear other devotees too hearing about offenses they tolerate at work.
Mm-hmm.
Or just people that you're regularly in association with, which is usually in a work environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I meant. Like, how do you just tolerate or endure, or should we be tolerating and enduring? Like, how to deal with that, how to manage that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, Tarka Prabhu has something.
Yeah, I have several decades of experience of working in the company of some animals and having to tolerate all kinds of terrible offenses. My what I have learned is that one thing that is important is that you have to become the advocate of these operatis. They are offenders, but on the one hand, they are also kind of innocent. They don't know any better. They're committing offenses, but they don't really know they're committing offenses. It's not necessarily their intention to commit offenses. They're just offensive because they're animals. So um, advocating for them through prayer is important because, as Jenna Butzla explained, you might forgive them, but Krishna will not necessarily forgive them. So devotees, it's a standard practice for devotees that they will pray to Krishna to help others, and to also forgive whatever offenses they are committing, because in ignorance, people will commit all kinds of offenses. Um, and sometimes they're just belligerent. They're just some people are just nasty, and so we ask Krishna to forgive them, just as Jesus was crucified, and he's praying to Krishna, please forgive them. That's the mentality of a devotee. The conscience of a devotee is that he understands that Krishna will be unhappy with the things that these individuals are doing, and out of concern for their welfare, the devotee prays to Krishna to please forgive them. That's important. That's something that we have to do. Krishna will forgive them if we beg Krishna humbly, please forgive this individual. That's very important for their progress. For ourselves, in order to tolerate the onslaught of offenses that we sometimes have to experience in a work environment, working with non-devotees, um, there really is little alternative but to become very Krishna conscious. We just have, if we are fixed up in Krishna consciousness, we will not take offense. We don't have to try to not be offended. We don't have to make mental adjustments to try to be not offended. But if we're fixed up in Krishna consciousness, our moment to moment experience is just simply relishing um, the taste of Krishna consciousness by hearing and chanting or remembering Krishna, remembering the morning's Bhagavatam class, whatever it may be. That taste enables us to rise above whatever may be going on around us. It just doesn't affect us. We just don't care because we have something superior going on. Whatever else is happening, it just doesn't matter. You can say anything to me, you can do anything, and I don't care because I'm having a blast in spite of that. That's the process of Krishna consciousness, that we absorb ourselves in kirtan ras, or the rasa of any one of innumerable different varieties of devotional service, and to the exclusion of everything else. And there is no substitute. There's just no substitute for Krishna consciousness. It's the fix for everything. It's a panacea. So we have to cultivate Krishna consciousness. Whatever else we do is going to be artificial, and it won't work that well. It won't work in the long haul. But Krishna consciousness works really well, and the fix is permanent. We have to purify our heart, and through practice, come to the point of remaining steady in Krishna consciousness. Nishta is the stage of steadiness. So we want to get to the point at which we are always fixed up in Krishna consciousness, and it happens. It's not that hard. By constant practice, we'll come to the stage of Nishta, and then we're not affected by whatever goes on around us. People will do all kinds of things, and we won't take offense. And out of compassion for them, we will pray to Krishna that they may be forgiven, and then to try to help them along. Um, as fallen as they are, it seems practically impossible, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So it has to start somehow, somewhere or other, by some means or other, they have to start. So we give them a start in whatever way we possibly can. And sometimes it's as simple as letting them hear the name of Krishna at least once, or getting them through some means or other, tricking them into saying a name of Krishna. Can you say um, uh, Gora Nitai, and you spell it out for them phonetically. Knee tie, knee like your knee, and tie like what you wear around your neck. Can you say that? Knee tie. We trick them sometimes. We do whatever we can. Holidays. Bring a plate of cookies for your coworkers or whatever, and you come into work, and first thing in the morning you see this person or that person, and wish them a good morning. Just say, good morning, so and so, whatever their name is. Good morning, Mr. Mudananda. And little things. Just you be nice to them. In spite of the fact that they're nasty to you, you just continually be nice to them, and you'll see that they transform over time. They appreciate, wow, this is a nice person. This person is nice. I like this person. They're always kind to me. They're always nice to me. This individual, always says hello and good morning. They address me by my name. They're always kind and respectful. Even I treat them badly, they never treat me badly in return. So be kind. Just be kind to people, at least that much. And it's not hard to do. You think about it, you can find all kinds of ways. You just do little things. Just be kind and sociable. They'll appreciate that, and they'll derive benefit by that. It's a Gata Sukriti. Everything starts with a Gata Sukriti. So all of us somehow or other in our remote history, at some point or other, it was a little Agata Sukriti that started us on our way. So give them that chance. There's all kinds of ways to do it. One of the reasons Srila Prabhupada favored devotees wearing dhotis and saris is that he saw that people immediately upon seeing devotees dressed in Vaishnava attire, they would immediately think of Krishna. They would see the devotees and they'd think, oh, Hare Krishna, there's a bunch of Hare Krishnas. They would shout out, sometimes mockingly, Hare Krishna, and but they would derive benefit from that. Now, in a work environment, that may not always be appropriate. You're expected to dress in a certain way, some business attire or whatever it may be, maybe a uniform or whatever. But and very direct approaches like that may also not be the most prudent approach. But so little things, subtle things, being nice to people, making friends with them. We have to be careful about friendship with non-devotees. We don't want to imbibe their qualities. We don't want to associate with them. We want to give them our association. So we are kind to them. We offer them gifts of prasad, or maybe just a card with a nice note or something on the occasion of their birthday, or wish them a happy Monday and a happy Tuesday, and on and on. Just find little excuses to be kind and nice to them. It will transform their heart. Because even the most animalistic rascal nonsense is not immune to the kindness of others. They'll respond, at least in time. They might be resistant for a little while, but eventually they'll come around to the point of appreciating that this person is a nice person, and they'll be nice to you in exchange, and they'll make advancement immediately. They'll make some advancement. Krishna will appreciate that. And then you offer them a little prasad, a tasty cookie or whatever it might be, and they appreciate that this is nice, it's tasty, and they make advancement by appreciating the taste of the cookie, and they make advancement by appreciating that this person was very kind to me and offered me a cookie. She didn't have to do that, but out of the kindness of her heart, she baked a cookie and she offered it to me. What a kind thing to do. She took the time and trouble to do that, and I appreciate that. This person is a friend, and they make advancement by appreciating you. And so on and on, little things, we give them opportunities again and again, and they make a little bit of advancement. And it may be tiny, it's very tiny, it's not so significant. They might not ever chant Hare Krishna in this lifetime, but you gave them a chance to make a little step forward. And the result of that is that they're going to get another chance to pick up where they left off. And that means that in order to get that chance, they have to take a human birth. Or maybe by Krishna's arrangement, they might still have to take an animal birth somewhere, but they'll get a chance in that animal birth to get the company of a devotee. They'll be the pet of a devotee or the neighbor's pet, and they'll get a chance to get some prasad from the devotee. But somehow or other, they're going to get another chance to incrementally move forward a little bit further. That's Krishna's arrangement. That once you start, you are guaranteed to get another chance to pick up where you left off. So how long it will take is hard to say. We don't know exactly how it will play out, but we know for certain they're going to get another chance. If they acquire a taste for prasad and they look forward to every time you bring a little prasad, and prasad is very special. Some part of them is going to appreciate that there's something different about this food. It's unusually tasty in a way that I can't put my finger on. I don't know what it is. There's something about it that's pretty special. And once they acquire that taste, that's it. They're going home. It's just a matter of time. They will have to get another birth that will give them an opportunity to relish prasad again. And it will absolutely happen. They're going to get a chance to relish prasad again and again and again and again. And they'll get the association of devotees, because how do you get prasad if without devotees? And one thing leads to another, and eventually one day they're chanting Hare Krishna, one day they're reading the books, and eventually their heart is purified, and sooner or later they're going to go back home. It's just a matter of time. So you just have to introduce a little bit of the medicine, and the process begins. And it's not hard to do. Tolerating the offenses, that's it's a matter of our own purification. We have to purify our own heart, and then we don't have to tolerate. We simply won't. Offense will not register. We'll just understand. This is the condition this individual is in. This is the state of their consciousness. It's unfortunate. Rather than feeling offense, we'll feel compassion. We'll feel that, oh, this poor soul. Look at the behavior of this individual. It means that they're suffering. This person is suffering terribly. Maybe they're lashing out at me. Why are they doing that? This is a tormented soul. This poor individual is suffering. Their heart is a mess. They're in terrible shape. They're suffering horribly. Let me try to do something to help this individual. And we have the power to do that. My God, we are blessed. We have magical powers. We can save people from, endless lifetimes of horrible suffering. And it's not hard. It's an easy thing. Give someone a cookie or, whatever it may be. Any little thing that they'll appreciate will start them on their path back home. So and if we make that our business to try to benefit others in some little way, to start them on their way in whatever little way it is, that's Sankirtan. That is the essence of Sankirtana. And we have the opportunity to relish Sankirtan Ras, which is the highest taste of all. And when we engage in Sankirtan, the activity of trying to retrieve the fallen conditioned souls, this is the work of Lord Chaitanya, and we get his association. We get the direct association of Lord Chaitanya himself when we engage in activities of trying to rescue fallen conditioned souls. He will directly help us. We'll have his association. We'll get a wonderful taste, and he'll advise us. He'll inspire us. He'll direct us. He will facilitate us in all kinds of ways, and he will protect us as well. As long as we're engaged in activities of propagating Krishna consciousness, we will have the direct protection of Lord Chaitanya. It's a wonderful thing. So, so what may seem like an unfortunate circumstance, we have to work. Sometimes we have to work in a miserable environment of non-devotees and terrible association, but it's an opportunity. We should see it that way. It becomes a big positive rather than a negative. What an incredible opportunity! I've got it up. I don't have to, go anywhere or do anything special. Right here, I've got all these opportunities for benefiting myself and benefiting all these individuals. What an opportunity. This is fantastic. Krishna's mercy. Krishna is so kind. He's given me this great opportunity. So let me take full advantage of this opportunity. I'll take, an hour or so. I'll bake some cookies and I'll pass them out to everyone and wish them a happy Monday and a great week ahead. And see what happens. And you can transform your entire work environment. And with a little effort, if you get serious, you can actually see, your all of your coworkers turn into devotees, within, your term of engagement in that work situation. It's happened for devotees, that they actually gradually make all of their coworkers devotees. It can happen, that you go into work one day and everyone turns around, they look at you and they say, Haribol. It can happen, but it begins with one simple little step, a little thing, just being kind to someone, give them a little prasad, do whatever you can do. That's my advice. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Oh, wow. That was so nice. Now it made me think of something, and now I have more questions. And I know we have to end eventually, but I just want to read one paragraph from Bhagavad Gita introduction. If a married woman is attached to another man, or if a man has an attachment for a woman other than his wife, then the attachment is to be considered very strong. One with such an attachment is always thinking of the loved one. The wife who is thinking of her lover is always thinking of meeting him, even while she is carrying out her household chores. In fact, she carries out her household work even more carefully so her husband will not suspect her attachment. Similarly, we should always remember the Supreme Lover, Sri Krishna, and at the same time perform our material duties very nicely. A strong sense of love is required here. If we have a strong sense of love for the Supreme Lord, then we can discharge our duty and at the same time remember him. But we have to develop that sense of love. Arjuna, for instance, was always thinking of Krishna. He was a constant companion of Krishna, and at the same time, he was a warrior. Krishna did not advise him to give up fighting and go to the forest to meditate. When Lord Krishna delineates the yoga system to Arjuna, Arjuna says that the practice of the system is not possible for him. So anyway, the point about the lover, you're thinking how whenever you're in your job, you're like how Tarka Prabhu was saying, uh, we don't care, we have something superior going on. I'm having a blast despite of anything you're saying to me. So just that that absorption and yeah, I'm doing my work, but I'm ultimately thinking of my lover. Um, and I'm carrying out my work really nicely and all my chores really nicely, but ultimately I'm thinking about my lover. Hope that I expressed that well, but um, yeah, more questions, but we probably should end. I just a little, when Parker Prabhu, whenever Muktavanya Prabhu was here, he was talking about how at the end of one of my classes, I think the second class, that we're pure devotees. Um, so there's always this discussion about that, about how we're aspiring devotees, or Prabhupada said that his devotees are pure, or actually being devotees. And Agyata Sikriti is about you're serving the devotee, right? So with all this discussion about are you a devotee? Are you a pure devotee? Are you actually just an aspiring devotee? How does the Agyata Sikriti work in that case? And what do you think about all this pure devotee, or all pure devotees, or actually we're all aspiring devotees? Or I know it's also about our consciousness as well. I'm gonna think about myself as an aspiring devotee. But Prabhupada also had said, I think Muktavan Prabhu had said his disciples were pure devotees. So yeah, what are your comments?
Wow. Um, you covered a lot of territory there. I don't know where to begin. Can you restate that question a little more concisely?
Sure, since there's a few questions, I'll just start with one. If we are not actually devotees, then how are people getting Agyata Sikriti from appreciating us?
But you are a devotee.
Okay.
There are different definitions of a devotee. Um, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has given a few definitions. Well, one in particular is anyone who has even once chanted the name of Krishna is a devotee. That's one definition. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given some definitions in where is it? Is it Harinam Chintamani? I think he goes into some depth about um, what constitutes a Vaishnava. So there are degrees, of course, and there's this concept of a green mango and a ripe mango. Um, the green mango may not be a fully ripened mango, but it's still a mango. And uh, devotees may not be fully developed in their progress in Krishna consciousness, but they are devotees nonetheless. Sometimes only separated by time, but they're already essentially devotees. Um, so, as I mentioned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave one definition that anyone who's even once chanted or simply once speaking the name of Krishna or any name of Krishna is to be considered a devotee. Um, so, are you a devotee? Um, are you initiated, or if you're not initiated, do you chant japa at all? Um, if you're regularly chanting, you are certainly to be considered a devotee. If you're engaged to any extent in devotional service, you are you're a devotee. You're more a devotee than any of the non-devotees. And if anyone appreciates you, they absolutely will get credit for that. Um, and if you are out of Krishna conscious compassion for the fallen conditioned souls in your environment, you're trying to help them along by some means or other. That is the essential work of a devotee. And if someone, responds to your efforts and they appreciate you for those efforts, they absolutely are going to derive benefit because you're doing the work of Lord Chaitanya. He is there with you. You're representing him, and when they appreciate you, they are actually appreciating Lord Chaitanya himself. They're going to make progress. They're absolutely going to make progress. Have no doubt about that. Um, you know, Otherwise, if you were completely a non-devotee, you had no thought of Krishna whatsoever, and you couldn't care less about other individuals, you had no interest in trying to save them from Maya and countless lifetimes of dreadful misery. Um, that's none of us are like that. We're all devotees. we all have Vaishnav compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. We're all trying to save ourselves. We're trying to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, and maybe we're struggling, but we're trying. We have some knowledge. We know something. We've acquired some taste. We have a taste for Krishna Prasad. We have some taste for hearing and chanting the holy names. We have some taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam class. We have some taste for associating with devotees. We have something. We have real wealth, and we have a desire to share that. We have that taste as well, and that's a very, very special thing. This kirtan ras or sankirtan ras, the taste for propagating Krishna consciousness, for transforming the hearts of other individuals, rescuing them from the dreadful abyss of material existence. These are all qualities of a devotee, and you cannot find those qualities anywhere else. They exist only in the hearts of devotees. So absolutely, you are a devotee, and anyone that appreciates you derives benefit for that. When you are trying to help them to progress a little bit, you are acting, even if you don't realize what you're doing, you're acting on behalf of Lord Chaitanya himself. Lord Chaitanya is, you are an instrument for Lord Chaitanya. He is the source of that mercy and compassion. It's manifesting through you, and those who respond to it make advancement towards Lord Chaitanya. It's almost mechanical the way it works, and it will not fail. So have no doubt about that. Have no doubts. Have no doubts. It will absolutely work. What to speak of devotees. Sometimes the Lord can extend his mercy through anyone or anything, and what to speak of his devotees. So Bilva Mangala Thakur, for example, he accepted a prostitute as his spiritual master because she reminded him. And this is just, this is a very fallen individual, a prostitute, an uneducated, low-class woman, just simply, I don't know if you know the story of Bill Mangala Thakur, but at some point he was in a fallen state. He took terrible pains to try to visit this prostitute on one very stormy night. He had to cross an overflowing river and nearly drowned, and trying to keep his head above water. He grabbed hold of a log and then discovered that it was actually a dead body. Trying to get him into the residence of the prostitute, whose name was Chintamani. He's trying to get to see Chintamani. He's trying to scale the compound wall, and grabs onto a vine, which turned out to be a snake. So in all different ways, he was risking his life to try to get to this woman in the dead of night in a dreadful storm. And so when he finally gets to her, she was amazed that he showed up on such a dreadful night. And she said to him, if only you had, so much dedication, determination for Krishna, and that immediately revived Bilva Thakur's memory. His Krishna consciousness was immediately restored, and he immediately rejected all of his nonsense activities and took up Krishna consciousness with great determination. He had one other instance of a near fall down later on, but he overcame that as well. Anyway, the point is that um, um, Krishna worked through this prostitute to rescue Bilamangala Thakur when he was in a fallen state. If and by that his Krishna consciousness was restored, and he was reinstated in his Krishna consciousness. So if that can happen through essentially a non-devotee, then what to speak of someone who actually is, seriously endeavoring, trying at least to practice Krishna consciousness. I'm not sure if this makes sense, but I'm feeble in my attempt to try to express these ideas. But anyway, it's the non-devotees, when they deal with the devotees, they're actually dealing with Lord Chaitanya. They don't know it, but one day they'll realize. Is that okay?
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I feel like I've been garlanded with some jewels.
Well, you're certainly blessed. You're blessed with an extraordinarily wonderful daughter. And my God, what a blessing.
I agree.
Yeah, you're a really fortunate soul. You may be a nonsense, not that you are a nonsense. You're not a
No, you're
nonsense,
right.
but even if you were a nonsense, your daughter will take you back home.
That's right. That's our hope. I mean, that's our faith and knowledge. Hare Krishna. John,
There,
before we go, Daddy said about feels like he's been gargling. What's the Taraka Prabhu or John? What's the verse that talks about the names of the Lord are like jewels or like a necklace of gems, or what is that? Oh, um, oh, I can't think of it. I have to look it up. Maybe that'll be my homework. Like garlanded with the names of the Lord, or a necklace of the names of the Lord, or something like that.
Talking about Trinadapi, Sunitena, that we're to wear that verse like
No,
a necklace around.
it's actually a name of a book that a devotee wrote.
Ratnamala? Ratnamala?
I'll look it up. That'll be my homework. Okay, thank you, devotees.
Thank you. It's by you all's mercy, Achyuta Mataji, Taraka Prabhu, my great parents that I can do anything. So thank you for this great community. And I guess, are we ending here? Yeah, please look it up as homework.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
God.
Achyuta Mata, you are muted.
Oh, she's Hare Krishna. I'm gonna bring us to the deities.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
I really appreciate the devotees who take the time to make darshan available on Zoom, because it's hard for me to get to the temple. Even though I'm pretty close by, it's a big deal for me to get to the temple, and I really value getting the darshan of the deities every day. I look forward to that, and I miss it when it does not happen. So I thank those who take the time to provide me with darshan. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar, Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gaurasundar, Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Right.
Well, you'll be able to see better in the pictures. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. All right. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day.
Likewise. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Thank you for your kind poem. What a gesture. I'm shocked. I'm really impressed. Thank you very much. And if you can, please send me a copy of that. That would make my day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sounds like a plan. I will do that. Thank you for reminding me. I was going to tell you I would. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.